This is a jewel. I need a camera on me. Victor, get Dr. Taleb, set it down here. Look, we got the book up on the screen. Look at that right there. Look how thin that book is, and there's no math in it. There's no math. But there is. There's lots of math underneath it. Yeah. This is, I'm going to call this a stocking stuffer. Let's start with this. The Success of the Black Swan. Fooled by Randomness is the only book I force my children to read. The Bed of Procrustes.
You want to corrupt them.
Why this book? Why did you write this little book now when every publisher would have let you write a big book?
No, I wasn't planning on writing a book. I was taking long walks and a relaxed lifestyle, and aphorisms kept, pouring out of me. So in 4 or 5 months, I had about 500 of them. I cut down about 40.
You edited them?
I didn't even edit. I just went straight through.
Page 49. Let's get right to it. The exponential information age is like a verbally incontinent person. He talks more and more as fewer and fewer people listen. It sounds like you wrote this about me. Does the media talk too much? All the experts?
Not every individual member, but media collectively is talking too much. There's a little too much information.
Too much information.
Too much information. So you got to keep raising the information level to get more attention, and you're losing people.
And we just brought up our little doodad there on too much information, Nassim. We spoofed this idea. There it is, Nassim. Which information do you sift out? Which information do you care about versus the information you want to ignore?
I go back to a paleo environment where we lived in social groups, more social groups, and social life is a great informational filter. If I hear something at dinner or at lunch, and I try to eat my meals with other people, I'm not exposed to media. If people are talking about it, it's important enough to consider going on the web. Okay? Otherwise, forget it. That's my social filter. It works. Also, it forces me to be social instead of watching TV all the time.
Watching TV. Oh, thank you. We like that. Nassim Taleb turning off Surveillance Midday. It's a great exclusive right there, folks. Let's get to page. Thank you, Rex. We needed that. Page 81. Casey, if you'd bring up prophecy. I love this. I feel like Jay Leno. They would take forecasting more seriously if it were pointed out to them that in the Semitic languages, the word for forecast and prophecy are the same. I love that. Forecasting, you're not a big fan of all the forecasting that goes on.
No, provided you take it seriously, not casual forecasting, because people tend to rely. We're programmed to rely on other people's forecasts.
Just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, you take more risk. If you give me a forecast now, I'm going to take more risk, even if I don't, disagree with it.
I want to talk about this idea of the book, The Bed of Procrustes. Lovely little book. There's the bed, and it's fitting everybody into the same box, right?
Exactly.
The same size.
It came to me when I was getting, for the first time in Milan, a suit, right, tailor-made. And I saw the tailor was taking great care trying to fit the suit to my body. And then I told myself, if this guy was an economist, he would be doing surgery on me to have a perfectly fitting suit, rather than try to
shorten your shoulder, shorten your arm, whatever.
Something to have a perfectly fitting suit. So that's how the idea came to me, and then the aphorisms kept flowing.
The idea here, I love this, an orthogonal Procrustean problem. In Procrustean analysis of linear algebra, this goes back to your 1996 book, Dynamic Hedging. An orthogonal Procrustean problem is fitting a matrix into one view. Do I get that right?
I don't know. I don't know what he means by that. I can imagine what orthogonal and Procrustean mean. I don't know what he's doing by shifting it, by taking maybe a dual space or something like that.
Let's talk about fitting everybody into one size. Here's the one-way trade of all time. Bring up chart 5, Rex, if you would. And this is the NASDAQ 100. And there was that little book that came out one day. Look at that peak in the NASDAQ, and we're clawing our way back, and we'll get there in 2030 or 40. There was a one-way trade somewhere on the left side of that mountain peak. Every forecaster was on board, not every, but most. There was just everybody fit into the same bonus pool, and you wrote Fooled by Randomness. What did you see there that nobody else saw?
I didn't, but Fooled by Randomness is mostly about, maybe it's a version of Procrustean bed.
Yes.
Is how you try to fit the world into your mental scheme rather than fit your mind to the world. Or if you can't do it, try to live in a world that is adapted to your mental capabilities or your imagination and stuff like that. So I had already started to realize in 2001 that we were a little naive. There's what I call the sucker problem. Naive in our representation of the world. We simplified couple of steps beyond what was necessary, and that simplification was very distorting. It was not like a simplification, it was beyond. It reversed a lot of the consequences of the models.
I want to bring up the education quote, if you will, Rex. You can get that prepared. Got it right there. Very good. Education makes the wise slightly wiser, but it makes the fool vastly dangerous. This is, I look at this, folks, in economics. Everybody blathering on about macroeconomics, but they never took the microeconomic foundations to figure out the dynamics underneath the idea.
It's sort of like half knowledge is much more dangerous. Half knowledge is the most dangerous knowledge.
Would you agree it's quarter knowledge today?
It's even more dilute. The problem of knowledge is sterile knowledge. Okay, if I give you sterile knowledge, you're going to have more confidence than if I give you no knowledge.
Right.
So this is why we have, over the past 20, 30 years, we have had in social sciences a degradation of knowledge. In other words, not studying social science makes you a lot better off than studying it, simply because that half knowledge is so dangerous.
Let's come back to the book. Let's look at the real world right now. Nora Rubini on yesterday. Rubini Global Economics, a survival strategy for the Eurozone. Out of Project Syndicate in the next few months, it'll become clear whether Europeans can compromise and implement reforms that dampen the threat of the Eurozone breakup. What a lot of posturing.
I think it's hype. I'm not worried about Europe. I'm worried about here more. Europe is like it's like a patient. Europe is a patient who has been diagnosed with cancer, and we're starting to do chemotherapy. That's the worst moment, okay? We here, over here, have a much larger tumor, and we have not been diagnosed.
What will it take to do that?
I don't know. First of all, you got to remove the painkillers. You see, when you have painkillers, you don't see
the QE2s.
Exactly, the QE2s are painkillers. You got to because we're pumping more and more painkillers to just stay in the same place, and they are harmful. They have side effects. So here we're not yet at the consciousness. At the degree that the problem we had in 2007, 2008 was not the recession. It was simply a problem of too much debt. Continue
this on, Rex, if you would. When you're talking, this is critical. When you talk about this, what's the catalyst you're looking for us to have a more mature fiscal conversation like what we see in Europe?
Okay, you see what we saw here. We have here the Tea Party people, but the Tea Party people, you have Sarah Palin or people who aren't considered credible intellectually, you see. All you need is a few intelligent persons to flip to that side. Without, of course, the radical views these people have, to just start speaking like a German, or someone from the UK Conservative Party, just someone with a little more credibility than a Tea Party.
So you're looking for a rhetoric of austerity before we go to
exactly,
austerity.
Because if I tell a patient, listen, we need chemotherapy, it's going to save your life in the long run. Right. I don't know many cancer patients who won't go through that, you see. But first of all, you got to convince people that there is cancer, and the second one, you got to convince them that that's the only way to go. Okay, that you cannot have so many gains without pain. We already spent the money, okay, and we have a lot of debt. We're not going to cure it with debt. So if you convince people, they go along with it. You just need someone credible to convince the American public that they may have to go through series of sacrifices. That's number one. And two, you need to apply these sacrifices to the right people, like the bonus earners, the chair people of companies, the big executive of companies made all this money.
You said to me you're not going to Davos this year because it's become Procrustean. What do you mean by that?
Well, I have two things to say. The first is an aphorism I wrote here after Davos.
Yeah, which was
2 years ago. It's one of the earliest aphorisms I've written. And it's the opposite of success is not failure. It's name dropping.
Yeah, I saw that.
I have the feeling that people go to Davos for name dropping.
It's changed. A number of other people said this. We'll be going this year again, and it'll be interesting to see if they move beyond crisis and siege mentality.
And the second problem, Procrustean, because they have a framework, and when I went there, they thought it was a problem of recession. Couldn't understand it was a problem of debt.
Right.
So I told myself, these are not the people who are going to get us out of here. It's a waste of time. You're going after chasing success.
I like what you said about. Go ahead, please.
Chasing successful people who want to be seen as successful people. That's the game. So it's not productive. Actually, it was very depressing for me to go there, to realize that, hey.
Well, remember the dinner that you and I were at? It was you, Rabini, Steve Roach, Robert Engel, the Nobel laureate, and a few others, and it really got...
Daniel Kahneman.
Yeah, and Daniel Kahneman. And it really got emotional about the why of this crisis. Have you changed your thinking on the crisis in the last year?
It was a good thing, but I have the feeling that I was wasting my time there. I do so much better staying at home by a fireplace, and I have my notebook, and I have my library, and I'm spending much less time outside my library these days, because I have the feeling that my role as an author and a thinker is to produce writings. Once in a while, when a book's out, I come and
you do this.
That's it, and then I go back.
Okay.
I'm not an actor. I'm not a conference, fiction.
Right, the great movie, folks, The Name of the Rose, Umberto Eco. You wrote a brilliant Eco idea in The Black Swan, where a library shouldn't be the books you read, it should be the books you want to read.
Yes.
Which is the book you want to read right now?
I have by my bedside a lot of books. I'm reading, actually, I discovered one thing. I started accidentally to read Aquinas, simply because when you read the classics, to see how the big magnus opus, the book that has everything in it. And I happened to hit on something he wrote on debt. Another one, around the 1200s, wanted to ban debt.
Right.
Because he, for reasons that are philosophical, but that's one thing. So I'm reading now Aquinas, and of course I had a nice surprise, and I have a few other books by my bedside.
Henry Kaufman here, he's got books by his bedside too. The Financial Times today. America must start again on financial regulation. Now, see me, the first one I thought about when I saw that headline, Dodd-Frank Act aimed to reform U.S. financial markets, now contributing to uncertainties over growth. It's a serious challenge to competitive finance. Why do we get regulation so wrong?
Well, the problem is regulation like medicine. If I give you the wrong medicine, I'm going to make you sick. All right? If I give you the right medicine, I'm going to improve your health. Regulation, with Basel, we had the wrong regulation. And regulation, even today, has not tackled the central point that got us here, or the helped the build-up of debt, is the following. Captain doesn't go down with the ship. If you take collectively the executives of banks and S&P 500, and you realize that over the past 10 years, the stock market is down, retirees, investors are down, and these people are rich. You see, they moan they're not as rich as they probably like to be or they were at some point, but they're all collectively rich. So you have a moral hazard, this asymmetry. They have the bonuses, and we take their losses as a society. You see, or we stop them out. That is not fully addressed by regulators.
Right. We just got a great viewer email. John Brynjolfsson, who was at PIMCO for years, runs his own hedge fund. What do you think of the Nobel Prize? He'll be with us on Monday. What do you think of all the excitement about a Nobel Prize in economics?
Well, that's a problem. One of my accountability questions is that they have not been made accountable for their actions, namely giving that prize to people who fragilize society. From Modigliani Miller, these models aren't good models, or Markowitz, these models aren't good models. Someone got to make them accountable for it. So they
How do you make the past history accountable?
Well, you sue them for damages. There's a great...
What are you going to sue? You're going to sue the estate of Modigliani?
No. You sue the Nobel for giving... He's an academic. Okay. For giving... If they give the Nobel for someone that prescribes cyanide as a drug, patently knowing, that it doesn't work on humans, and it encourages people to consume cyanide and cause them to die, well, there got to be some responsibility somewhere for these the stamp they gave to models that otherwise would have been considered plain charlatanism.
You take a shot at journalists frequent and often in the Bed of Procrustes. An erudite is someone who displays less than he knows. A journalist or consultant, the opposite. There's a lot of certitude out there. I think of Mark Twain, the Talebian philosopher.
Let me explain to you. An aphorism, like a proverb, cannot be meek, all right? It's got to be bold. You say things.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
But I think of Mark Twain and the certitude of the second rate.
No, of course, you cannot take everything as a general statement. Right. No, as a general statement. When I say that there's some journalists who are definitely more erudites than people we call erudites, and vice versa, you see. So you have, just like here, I'm very critical of consultants. Some consultants do a great job, you see. Mm-hmm. I'm critical of the economic establishment. There's some members of the economic establishment who are, upright, very ethical citizens, unlike the other ones. So you have I'm committed to truth. So you have, but of course, but poetry, aphorism is half poetry, half philosophy. You cannot afford to dilute your thing by some, but maybe on footnotes and qualifiers.
In our final minutes here, I think of the Black Swan, fooled by randomness, dynamic hedging. I think of the type 2 construct, the idea of Stiglitz of you can't see what's out there, the mystery that's out there. What's the thing that we should be paying attention to that we just can't pay attention to? We don't have the ability to pay attention to.
My idea has been throughout to show that there is opacity and set the limits of what it is that we should not, the limits of what we don't know, okay? The limits are fuzzy, but we definitely can construct decision-making policies that don't expose us to to this unknown, okay? So you avoid having large corporation because it's much more fragile to the unknown. Some technological things make you vulnerable to the unknown, you see. This is my idea is to identify what you need to be robust against and implement a policy general to society. Low debt, because debt fragilizes you to uncertainty. It makes you rely on forecasting a lot more than if you don't have debt. So it's various sets of policies. These I outlined in the second edition of the Black Swan, probably without too much details, and my writings now. I'm focusing on that.
Congratulations, Nassim Taleb, The Bed of Procrustes. Folks, read this.